The 2020 bailout package by the US federal government was at almost $3 trillion.
$6.2 trillion. I've never signed anything with a T on it.
Compare that to the 2008 Great Recession, where the bailout package was about $200 billion. So does this mean that we're headed for hyperinflation? Also, what is hyperinflation and what does it mean for your savings and your investments? How is it possible that the US can seem to create infinite amount of money out of thin air? And is cryptocurrencies the solution for this? We're gonna get into all of that in this video. Hi everyone, I'm Mark and this is my YouTube channel, Mediocre Money, the channel all about personal finances and improving our money management skills. So first of all, let's talk about hyperinflation. What is hyperinflation? So inflation is a measure of how fast the costs of goods are rising, which is why your grandparents paid 30 cents for a carton of eggs and you and I have to pay about $4 for it. What this means is that the value of our currency is actually decreasing because $1 for your grandparents could buy them 3 or 4 cartons of eggs and $1 for us could buy us maybe 3 eggs. Inflation exists in almost every area of our economy, and a big reason why it exists is because we expect it to happen. Let me explain. Companies raise prices for their products and services because their costs are also increasing, costs for employees and the cost for the raw materials. And employees are demanding higher wages because the people like you and I who work for a company, we have higher costs because eggs are costing more and mojitos are costing more. So we want to make more money too. It's a self-fulfilling cycle. Hyperinflation is simply that same process, just sped up dramatically. And sometimes it can even increase exponentially, which is why in Argentina, the price of mojito might have cost $4 at the beginning of the month, but by the end of the month, it cost $16. That's how bad their hyperinflation was. And that type of hyperinflation can crush an entire economy, currency, and the country. Okay, let's get back to the US and North America today. Can we create money out of thin air? Well, you and I wish we could, but we can't. The US government and the governments of most countries, however, they can. And nowadays, you don't even have to print money. You can just add zeros to a digital screen. Victoria Grant, who is a young child, has explained this the best that I've ever seen.
Have you ever wondered why the bankers from the largest private banks are becoming wealthier and the rest of us are not?
Urging the Canadian government to take back action and more control of their money. I'll link to that video right here. What's important to know is this. The US and the Canadian governments have been running at a deficit for years. But what does that mean? That means that these governments have been spending more than they earn for years and decades, which raises the question, how sustainable is this? And this is very similar to shopaholics. When you don't have any more money to shop on Amazon, you can put it on your credit card, or you can take out a line of credit, or even take out a loan on your house to buy more things on Amazon. Huge disclaimer though, do not do any of this, please, I beg you. The first step to managing our money properly is to ensure that we're spending less than we earn. And if you don't know for 100% certain how much money you're spending and earning, then you probably are spending all that you earn and maybe more. Okay, so how sustainable is it to run a deficit, whether you are the US government or an Amazon shopaholic? So can the governments continue to run a deficit plus spending trillions of dollars every 10 years or so when a recession hits? Well, kinda. Financially, governments function fairly similar to people. It might not be the best, but yes, you can technically spend more than you earn as long as you're able to continue to pay down your debts. And in theory, you could continue to increase your debts as long as your income is increasing along with it to be able to service those debts. So will this insane increase of USA debt cause hyperinflation? And yes, in theory. When the debts are rising faster than what the GDP or the government's income is rising, there is the chance for hyperinflation. Luckily, the USA's GDP is increasing quite rapidly as well, which gives them a higher ability to service trillions of dollars worth of debt. But it is a really valid concern that many people much smarter than me have, because the debts are rising much faster than ever before. But ultimately, nobody really knows for certain how much debt a country like the USA can sustain. And on top of that, the USA has a lot of very intelligent people with a lot of monetary policy theories, which could help prevent hyperinflation if that starts to occur. They just haven't used anything like this yet because it just hasn't happened. But it is very possible that hyperinflation could be prevented. But one thing that we know for certain, given hyperinflation in the past, is that hyperinflation is extremely hazardous to savings that you and I have and our investments. 20 years of savings could seem like a lot, but if it can only buy you one carton of eggs, then does it really matter? And that fear is what drives a lot of people to cryptocurrencies. Now, I am by no means a monetary policy expert or a cryptocurrency expert by far. I simply try to know enough about money to be able to make decisions on a personal finance level. Most cryptocurrencies have a limited amount of dollars or digital dollars available. So the value of those cryptocurrencies should continue to rise given that the amount of people using it and the frequency that they're using it is also rising along with that. And the inverse is also true. So if less people are using it, the values will also decline. In theory, if we had a universal cryptocurrency, the value of that should be represented by the value of the GDP approximately. And since the global population is rising and globally our GDPs are all increasing, the value of a universal cryptocurrency should continue to rise with that. Initially, this might seem like a great option to store some savings in order to protect yourself from hyperinflation. And that very well might be true, especially if hyperinflation occurs in a large country that's a global powerhouse like the USA. We might very well see a large influx into cryptocurrencies. However, if there's one thing I've noticed about anything when it comes to monetary policies or any sort of large macroeconomic changes, and that's there are always unintended consequences. And I'm okay with that. As humans, the best we can do is solve the problems that are immediate and the most pressing and solve the unintended consequences or future problems that they create at a later point in time. But if we did completely switch over to one universal cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin perhaps, eventually some big mojito drinker or some business will eventually run out of money, and they will need some way to pay down some costs that they have. And there will be some person or government that is willing to give that person or business some money in order to cover their initial costs. And in return, that person or government would expect to get that money back with a little bit more in some future time. And that loan could be in the form of an IOU note, a contract, or represented by a slip of paper with old powerful white man's faces on it. It could even be represented in a form of another cryptocurrency. What I'm trying to get at here is that even if we were to change over completely to a cryptocurrency, eventually we'll end up quite near to the same place that we are in now, which is there is some body that is able to produce an infinite amount of money, it seems like. Obviously, to get to this point though, there would be severe crashes, there would be fortunes gained and fortunes lost, and extreme political rises and collapses. And if we look back through the history of the world, we see the rise and fall of amazing powerhouses like Egypt, France, Germany, Britain, Rome. And well, it just gets a little exhausting how often history repeats itself. It seems to me like the only constant is change itself. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would really appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace out.